Good evening. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C. I'm here today at the D.C. Police Department's headquarters. I'm joined by members of my public safety team. We are here to provide a public safety update. I want to start by speaking directly to the residents of Washington, D.C., 712,000 tax-paying Americans. To us in Washington, we saw directly an affront not only on our American democracy, but on our own D.C. values. The values that make our city a welcoming, diverse, and inclusive place. We step up daily to support the federal government and the many federal events and activities that take place in our city to ensure safety in the nation's capital. Despite having zero representation, having no votes in the same Congress where this siege took place today. To the Metropolitan Police Department, or DC Police, Chief Conti, the entire command staff, and our officers who performed admirably, you made us proud. You are the patriots, not the people we saw storm the building. MPD immediately answered the call to support our federal partners today without hesitation and helped to quickly restore order to the Capitol. At this hour, we can report that the Capitol is secure, and MPD has worked in collaboration with the United States Capitol Police and the Secretary of the Army to further secure the grounds for the upcoming days. Today, this afternoon, I called for a curfew in the city that began at 6 p.m. and will run through 6 a.m. I urge anyone who is not in place in your home or your hotel, if you mean to cause trouble on the streets of Washington, D.C., you will be arrested. MPD will enforce tonight's curfew. To our fellow Americans, I know that I speak for all of us when I say that we saw an unprecedented attack on our American democracy incited by the United States President, and he must be held accountable. His constant and divisive rhetoric led to the abhorrent actions we saw today. And sadly, it led to a loss of life that will forever stain what could have been and what should have been a peaceful transfer of power. Again, he must be held accountable. I want to thank our lawmakers who returned to the Capitol building to do the work of the people in the people's house. I want to thank our regional partners, including the governors of Maryland and Virginia, the county executives and police chiefs of surrounding jurisdictions who responded to MPD's call for mutual support in the city, and also the call of the United States Capitol Police for support at the Capitol. Today, I signed an extension of the public emergency that I could declare today for 15 days so that we can continue to ensure peace and security through the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Today may be a dark day for our democracy, but there is hope and change coming. With that, I want to turn to the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, Robert Conti, to provide an update.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. I am Chief of Police Robert Conti of the Metropolitan Police Department. My remarks are an update to the press briefing from earlier this afternoon regarding today's shocking and shameful behavior at the Capitol. But I want to first reassure community members across the District of Columbia that we are still responding to calls for police service, and we are grateful for your words of thanks and support for our members and partners. Around 8 p.m., Congress reconvened and the Senate has resumed their session, allowing democracy to continue. To get this accomplished, the Metropolitan Police Department, along with the U.S. Capitol Police, had to regain control of the U.S. Capitol by removing trespassers and sweeping the building for security. After we successfully removed all trespassers and cleared the building, our members established a secure perimeter around the Capitol building, utilizing police personnel in order to push back any demonstrators in the area. I would like to thank the assisting law enforcement agencies, to include Virginia State Police, Arlington County, Prince William County, and Fairfax County Police Departments, Maryland State Police, Montgomery County Police, Prince George's County Police, New Jersey State Police, and National Guard assets for answering the call. Shortly past 7:15 p.m., police personnel from local jurisdictions began assisting MPD in securing the perimeter around the Capitol building. This allowed our members to become mobile in order to enforce the mayor's 6 p.m. curfew. Our goal with this curfew, which has been the same with previous curfews, is to obtain voluntary compliance from individuals. We verbalized warnings of the curfew, and anyone refused to leave, officers began to initiate arrests. As of 9:30 today, we have made in excess of 52 arrests, 4 arrests for carrying pistols without licenses, 1 arrest for possession of prohibited weapon, 47 arrests related to curfew violations and unlawful entry. 26 of these 52 arrests were made on U.S. Capitol grounds. Additionally, 2 pipe bombs have been recovered. 1 pipe bomb from the DNC, another pipe bomb from the RNC, a cooler from a vehicle with a long gun in it that also included Molotov cocktails. This also was on the grounds of the United States Capitol. This number, in addition to the 10 arrests that occurred yesterday, are the arrests that the Metropolitan Police Department has reported thus far. Again, these numbers are preliminary and will be updated accordingly. As I stated earlier today, if you are not engaged in essential activities, please stay off the streets and adhere to the curfew, or you will be subject to arrest. We have also recovered at least 6 firearms today, in addition to the 3 last night and a stun gun. As you are aware, earlier today, approximately 2:46 p.m., protesters breached fencing along the Capitol grounds and confronted police lines surrounding the building. Multiple individuals forced entry into the Capitol building and attempted to gain access to the House room, which was still in session. They were confronted by plainclothes U.S. Capitol police officers, at which time 1 Capitol police officer discharged their service weapon, striking an adult female. She was transported to a local hospital where, after all life-saving efforts failed, she was pronounced deceased. Her identification is being withheld at this time, pending next of kin notification. The Metropolitan Police Department's Internal Affairs Division is currently investigating this matter as we investigate all officer-involved deaths in the District of Columbia, including ones from other agencies. This is a tragic incident, and I send my condolences to the victim's family and friends. Additionally, there were 3 other deaths reported today from the area around the Capitol grounds. 1 adult female and 2 adult males appear to have suffered from separate medical emergencies, which resulted in their deaths. Any loss of life in the district is tragic, and our thoughts are with anyone impacted by their loss. You should also be aware that at least 14 MPD officers have sustained injuries during the demonstrations. 1 member suffered serious injuries after he was pulled into a crowd and assaulted. He is currently hospitalized and undergoing testing for treatment for his injuries. 1 officer received significant facial injuries from being struck by a projectile and is also hospitalized. The additional injuries are not as serious in nature, but are nonetheless concerning. These officers should be commended for their work. They fought hard to protect our democracy. Not only today, but every day they wear that uniform. Thank you for your dedication and service and sacrifice. Lastly, I want to thank all of the Washingtonians for adhering to the curfew order by staying home. I would like to now turn it back over to our mayor for any questions.
Okay. We'll take questions. Yes, Clarence.
Describe any previous coordination that happened or any requests that the U.S. Capitol Police might have made to MPD or to the city prior to the breach, or did this come after the breach, after things completely got out of hand?
Sure. I'm going to ask the Chief, Clarence. Clarence's question was to describe coordination with the United States Capitol Police, and I'm going to ask the Chief to talk about MPD's coordination efforts, not only with the United States Capitol Police, but with the federal partners that we work with routinely on First Amendment activity.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. So there were several planning meetings between the United States Capitol Police and the regional law enforcement partners leading up to the events of today. The call for assistance from the Metropolitan Police Department to the United States Capitol, that call came in sometime after 12, maybe a little bit before 1 a.m. 1 p.m. I'm sorry. That call was put into Metropolitan Police Department that there was significant activity at the United States Capitol, that people were trying to breach the fence, and of course we immediately deployed platoons to assist the United States Capitol Police. We deployed MPD platoons to do that.
Chief, can you characterize it all? Are you happy with kind of the coordination prior to? Do you feel like you wanted to have more units, on scene ahead of time, or can you just characterize that at all?
Well, for the city's response in terms of how the Metropolitan Police Department deployed its officers, I'm very comfortable with that. I think we'll all look back to examine the different plans that were in place, the coordination, what U.S. Capitol Police plans, what they were. Certainly, there was an agreement that if there was any assistance needed, that MPD would answer that call, and we did that today. We answered the call.
Yes.
Mayor, and this is also for the chief. When you look at the fact that those people were able to storm into the Capitol, would you call this a failure on the part of the Capitol Police when it comes to security? And also, there are some videos that are circulating that appear to show Capitol Police officers letting people in through a barricade. Are you aware of that? And have you found out what went on there?
I'm not aware of that particular instance, Evan, and I'm sure that we're going to spend a lot of time working with our partners, including in leadership, about the security of the building. We are focused, however, right now on making sure that the members can do their work, that the additional assistance that's coming in is being properly deployed so that the Capitol and its grounds can be secured by the United States Capitol Police, and the resources under the D.C. National Guard. And we are very focused on that, and we will continue to focus because clearly we will have more events at the Capitol, and we want to make sure that every lesson learned from this one is implemented. Yes.
To be able to have a secure inauguration, considering what we saw today, in terms of what happens now in dealing with these federal partners?
We will continue to talk. I know you know that there is a presidential pick, they call it, as well as the Congress itself has its own planning body for the presidential inauguration. We participate with those groups, and we will regroup with them so that the best situational planning can be in place. Any other questions? Yes.
Mayor, maybe if the chief wants to weigh in, some people are saying that it appears that at least early on there was some restraint on behalf of MPD when it comes to arresting people after the curfew. We saw on Swan Street in June 194 people arrested. We're not seeing numbers like that as of tonight. What's going on, and are they showing some restraint?
No, that's not appropriate. I think the first thing that we have to do is we needed to make sure that we had a safe situation. We had to contain the situation that we were dealing with. And the moment that we were able to contain the situation, then members were able to start effecting arrests. The initial arrest for the curfew violation as well as the unlawful activity at the Capitol, we started with arrests there, and then we started methodically moving out from the U.S. Capitol, making arrests going on. There are arrests that are going on as we speak. Members of MPD are on the street, and again, we will continue to enforce the mayor's curfew until it's over, and that's 6 a.m. So our officers are here. They're here and they're doing their jobs, and they will take anyone in custody that's in violation of the mayor's curfew order.
Chief, are you able to characterize, we able to hear from your officers that went inside the Capitol? What did they encounter when they got inside? What were they confronted with inside of those halls?
Obviously, a very chaotic scene. One that we have not experienced in the city before, but I'm very proud of my officers. They fought. We answered the call of the federal government. Metropolitan Police Department officers responded there with the assistance of surrounding jurisdictions, and we restored the people's business.
Okay. Who's Jenny from WAMU.
Hi, this is Jenny from WAMU. My question is about the difference between June 1st and today. On June 1st, we saw a huge collection of federal police forces in the city, and Mayor Bowser, you had some criticism about that. But I'm wondering, to both you and Chief Conti, if you wish that there had been more of a federal police presence earlier in the city today.
Let me be clear. If you're talking about the clearing of Lafayette Square, so the president can walk over to take a picture, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I had some criticism about that because people who were peaceful were moved out even prior to a curfew expiring for the purpose of a presidential photo op. I do think it bears mentioning that there is some difference in the federal response at Lafayette Square and at the United States Capitol. I think that we saw different types of vehicles used. We saw a different posture used in some cases. We did not see, for example, deployment of those military personnel on the Capitol grounds. Yes. Mark? Mark?
Yes, I have a question for each of you. Thank you. For Mayor Bowser, I'm wondering if you could clarify what the new mayor's order, the extension of the emergency, what powers that gives you, and if you will extend the curfew. For Chief Conti, if you could clarify the 3 medical emergency deaths, if those were all at the Capitol. And for Chief Donnelly, in the readout provided today, it said that your medics transported a gunshot victim today, and I'm just wondering if you could clarify if that in fact was the woman who was shot inside the Capitol and not another gunshot victim. Thank you.
Your question was about the public emergency, and Mark, by mayor's order, I can declare an emergency that gives me additional authority over business operations. It gives me the authority to restrict the movement of D.C. residents for an extraordinary event, and that's what a curfew is. And so what we do by extending this public emergency by 15 days, in addition to allowing me to organize the operations of our government, we want to put everybody on notice that some extraordinary act by the government that could restrict their movement or their business may be necessary. And as far as the curfew goes for the remainder of the event, we will announce that as we see it. The police especially need the tool in the evening hours when it becomes night. And we know that if we provide 4 hours notice that can be effective for us.
Mark, your question regarding the other individuals, obviously until these individuals are seen at the office of the chief medical examiner, we will not know the cause of death. We believe that there was some type of medical emergency for each of them, but again, that's very preliminary. Once we know, obviously we can relay that information. The gunshot wound victim, the female, she is the one who was transported from the scene to an area hospital where she was pronounced.
Mike from the AV. Mike.
Yes, Mike from AP.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe the chief could just speak to this a little bit, but the 26 arrests that were made on the Capitol grounds, were those people who were inside the Capitol, occupying the Capitol, and were all of the protesters who were inside the Capitol who were encountered by MPD officers taken into custody?
Obviously, not all protesters were taken into custody. Not all protesters were taken into custody. And again, we'd have to go through some of the video to really see whether or not some of the people that we actually have in custody were people who were inside of the U.S. Capitol. We're just not sure at this point. What we do know is that they were on Capitol grounds at the time that the curfew was in effect, and those individuals were placed under arrest by the Metropolitan Police Department.
And if I could just add to that, we will be issuing, what does the BOLO mean?
Be on the lookout.
We're going to be issuing some be on the lookout, or BOLOs, as the police call them, alerts, featuring people who breached the Capitol. We're in the building. MPD will start to release those. We'll be able to release more when we have some more discussions with the Capitol Police and can review further their video. But we will be on the lookout, and we ask everybody out there to be on the lookout for these individuals who breached the Capitol. And some of them we think are very much have to be held accountable for the carnage. Any other questions?
Can you just clarify, so I'm sorry, just to recap, 3 medical emergency related deaths and then the 1 shooting death?
That's correct. All right. Any more on the phone? All right. Thank you, everybody.